Hello. I am going to be reading this script because I've been trying to, wouldn't hurt to get the microphone connected. There we go. Okay, let's start that again. I'm going to be reading this script because the way I'm wired, that's out of here. The way I'm wired, I am definitely a big picture, pattern associative thinker. And I've had 4 decades hiring editors and also working with top executives, but mainly on the phone. Executives that had 20, 30, 40, 50 people right under them, and then another 1,000 in the field. These are all big construction companies. Some are family, grandfather, father, son, grandson. I loved it. I kind of grew up in that kind of family. And hands-on too. So that's what it kind of picked me and I picked it 40 years ago, that I was going to help with human resource thinking and strategy from outside. I wouldn't be employed, but I have a lot of great little techniques with research, and I've had a good staff to keep that research up to date. And I have the associative pattern brain and the overall perimeter, bringing it to the core type of skills that I could then deliver on the phone. And literally, whether they were in Chicago or Burlington, Vermont, or Austin, Texas, Portland, Oregon, Seattle, Canada, Hawaii, it didn't matter. I could gather enough insight from my techniques to literally have a feel, an emotional feel for what the personal people dynamics were like in the workforce, what they were thinking, what they were feeling, how they felt about being part of that group. And that was very helpful, because if it wasn't feeling right, if it was out of sync or imbalance, then that's when I could find talent and point out another one of my clients where the workplace environment and the people and the personality and the advancement were much more what they want. And maybe it was family oriented too. They needed to relocate somewhere else to be closer to grandparents that were getting older, blah, blah. Okay, so that's how I funded this research for 4 decades on what I'm presenting today. I did my recruitment, I had my staff, I paid for that, and then I said, okay, let's spend 3 or 4 hours, 2 or 3 times a week on this project. And if you listen to some of what I'm saying on it, you will realize, I finally figured out where my genius area was, since it's not in linear memorization. It's pattern and associative memory that gives me a photographic ability to recall in those instances. So like I said at the start, when my lips were just moving, but I didn't have the sound on, I'm going to read this. And I could probably do visuals, show what it is, but you can go to the website, right on this YouTube. Right when you go to my front page, there's the link to the website. And if you go to the home page, it's going to literally show you visually what I'm going to talk about verbally. And it goes through all the steps. And then, of course, all the wonderful, I don't want to say, well, they're wonderful, but all the great best-selling books that I have perused over the last 40 years, and there have been many thousands of them. And the way I did it was Powell's Bookstore when I was in Portland. Get 10 of them every 2-3 weeks, skim them in the evening after work, find the 6 or 4 or 5 I liked that I really want to go into more depth, take the rest back, get a credit, do it again, do it again, do it again. That's how I got to absorb. And Powell's had a phenomenal store, all kinds of topics, best-selling, self-development, scientific, geometric, you name it. All the areas I was interested in, archeology. But I was really centering it already because I was trying to focus it on the values that I was trying to relay and give back to my clientele. in the construction industry. Okay, so here we go. Won't be able to take the glasses off because, you know, I've been around long enough. I've had to do the journey here, the path for 40 years to get it to this point. So my eyes are fading a little bit, and I apologize. We are all a combination of different learning styles, a mix of visual, tactile, spoken, listening routines, rituals, and habits that create our personal and social personality. So, I use my lifetime involved talents to specialize in an area of inventive genius. I have transformed paper printed or online viewed best-selling book authors' page chapter commentary into a fast action, yes, get this, 7 portrait pages type series. That's what's on my website. 35, 40 of the best-selling books on there. You can download them at no cost. Got to print them. And you know, a lot of people don't have printers at home anymore that can print 8.5 by 11 pages, one-sided, 10 pages. Sorry, but this is very visual, tactile experience to get the benefit out of it. And you'll love some of the authors on there. Some were there before the internet was invented, but others are right up to date. But both of them, the value they bring, you've got to capture it. And if that means you've got to get some paper, you got to print it so you can interact with it immediately or later, then it's you. And this is what I'm going to talk about. Let me introduce this invented thinking tool. It's called a Shared Wisdom Patterns Snapshot, or SWPS series. It's printed on one side, packets of 10 pages. That's what you can print out, no charge. Got to go on there though. You got to have a place to print it. They're all in our library. Each SWPS series, that's the acronym for Shared Wisdom Pattern Snapshot, SWPS. Okay, yeah. Well, there were a lot of others, but this one seemed non-derogatory and kind of a little bit cool. Whatever. Each SWPS series has a consistent layout to what is presented on the 10 pages. So you print the 10 pages one side. Page 1 provides an instructional overview of how to engage, choose, and rank from the 7 portraits that kind of provide a sequel of understanding of what section of the best-selling book I captured and dissected in these hotspots. It isn't random. It has a good flow. Hey, you know, it's just like curating archeological display in a museum. I'm good. So I'm going to send it in a way that people wandering through are going to enjoy looking at it. But this is much more than that. There are no cases. You take what you want from the museum and go apply it. That's literally the parallel between a best-selling book that's dissected and used with geometric formula of placement on these portraits. I don't know if that made any sense. Probably too deep. Let's keep going. So page 1 has an overview of how to do a response report, how to engage the portraits, and it has a section that overviews the author of this best-selling book with some of my commentary about why I think it's an exceptional book to have in the library. Each SWPS series has a consistent layout. That means page 1 has this on it. Page 2 has 2D, 3D perspective shifting images on them that I got from a great book. And it indicates what book if you want to go find it and look at some more. But it really is pretty cool, the automatic perspective shifting that goes on in your brain. You have no control over it. And then the rational one, where you've got to intentionally move the image around in your mind because you can't move it on the page or the monitor. Okay, so that's page 1. Page 2 are the images that shift 2D, 3D. And then there follows the 7 pages, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of portraits with kind of the commonality of what the theme is for the topic from the best-selling book, all through the 7, and introduction, and then there it is. I have dissected good hotspots of the best wisdom on a topic in the book, and I positioned it very interestingly. At first, you may think it's just another format for printed documentation, but it's not. I'm using 2D and 3D experiences that we tested and vetted. And a portrait in the center, in the heart, has what I call an RTH, which is the regular tetrahedron that is used as the model to place 4 related flowing strong wisdom topics that I dissected from the book out in a consecutive clockwise order around those 4 sides. Well, you're looking on a 2 piece of paper. It isn't 4-sided. You got to do it here, rational. And once you do that and start to read those around with that encapsulation, that starts to bring the heart to the feeling of the content that author was also feeling themselves, and the publishers and editors and their wives and husbands and everybody else that influenced them, all the past authors that influenced them, all that's come together in the way they're trying to articulate it with the language in the book without it becoming too long, blah, blah, blah. So that's what the RTH is. It's the center of the portrait. Then you go, well, first thing is going to happen with the left brain and all the training and scripting is you're going to immediately go to the top of the left side of the page. That's how we're scripted. You read a page that way. You read a page by going to the top, and going to the left, and going left to right, based on the sentences, the paragraphs, the page number, etc. But this is different. And the right brain has got to learn to work with the left brain, because the right brain starts to realize the first place that they need to look at is the heart, the RTH. Then right up above it is what I call the summation box. And that kind of introduces or better points out the distance, the perimeter this wisdom topic is covering. Some people would like to just read that first, but that isn't engaging the SWPS series to get the full benefit out of your whole consciousness, your whole brain, and get a synchronization between your right brain and your left brain working separately and together and unifying. I even have a little video on my website, just putting it on there. And I call left brain and right brain playing together in a ping pong match. But it's not really to see who wins, but it does show how the brain works separately and together and reacts to different kinds of instances. Right brain more emotional based on that, left brain more logical. So that's what the 7 portraits are about. So that gets you to 9 pages of the 10 in a SWPS series. Page 10 is the response report. That's where, oh, that's old. The pedal hits the metal from the standpoint of you capturing the value of putting some attention to this. Now think, if you had to go read the book, how much time that would take, you can actually go through a SWPS series in 10 minutes the first time. And once you've chosen rank the 4 out of 7 portraits you like the best, whether it was right brain, left brain, whole brain, or just your mood that day that made you pick those 4. And then you go to the summation box intros and you rank them on the 4 you picked. That just gets the brain working differently, just gets one's awareness and perception being used in a different way, just like going to the center of the page in the heart with the regular tetrahedron 4-sided first. It's a different methodology of assimilation of written language that's also very image encroached. The portrait has 3 boxes, and in each box is the hotspots of language from the book. So that's the summation box. That starts it out at the top. Then there's a conclusion box below the heart RTH. And that kind of brings it to a conclusion or how it would have ended. And you know, when I'm dissecting a great book, the way the publishers, the way the editors decided to address all the subjects, sometimes I have to dissect pieces that all go together for a SWPS out of what, 2-3 chapters, 42 pages, and they're all listed on the right side of the portraits. If you want to go to the specific page in the book where I dissected and brought the hotspot out, it's right there. So I'm honoring these great book authors. I'm hoping to create an interest, since many of these books just kind of go on with the next bestsellers, and people grab a best-selling book and they read it or skim it or however they go about it, whether they're good at it or not, or they think they are. Go read Jim Kwik. He's going to be in there. He tells you about reading, but how to be better. We all need to be better. So trying to stay on the subject. So then what you're capturing on that response report, after you choose your 4 portraits out of 7, after you rank the summation boxes, the 4 of them on the 4 portraits you chose, 1 through 4, and after you rank the conclusion boxes on the 4 portraits you chose, 1 through 4, recording it on your response report or on the front page with pencil, and you can put it on the response report when you're done. Then you're going to put all that information on the response report. And then you're going to go back and look at the 4 portraits you chose. And you're going to look at the rankings you gave the 4 summation boxes and the rankings you gave the 4 conclusion boxes. And then you're going to re-rank those 4 portraits based on the overall magnification of what you got out of them through this experience. That might take up to 10 more minutes. But that's 20 minutes to completely absorb, not all of them, but a huge number of the best wisdom, insights, advice in a 200 to 400 page book. And in this day and age, zippity-doo-dah, AI wants to do it for you. Everything is quick. Get on Google. God, I'm even loving it. Type it in there, and boy, the answer's right there. Depends on what it is you're asking about. God, it's just so addicting. You don't have to remember anything. This is a way to record how you use your experiential intelligence, which I call EI. And there's books out about it. There's emotional intelligence, there's experiential intelligence, and all that general thing if you start Googling it. Ugh. But experiential intelligence, the way I define it, is everything itty bitty or huge that you can either comprehend or it just is there, instilled in your genetics or in your instincts or what, that you have experienced probably even before you were born, all the way to now. And how is it assimilated or stored? Well, that isn't all of it. Then you've got the other aspect of it that has to fuse with your experiential intelligence, which is even more powerful, and that's your values, beliefs, convictions. No commas, what I call VBCs, not like ABCs, VBCs, values, beliefs, convictions. So values, beliefs, and convictions and experiential intelligence with your own genetic life travels experience to where you're at today, fused together and are brought out in a very recordable and previously undocumentable form with the response report. So what do you do with it? Well, first you got to do it. Once you do it, then there's all kinds of books. I haven't got Maxwell's book in there yet that talks about possibility thinking. God, that's a biggie. Possibility thinking. That's what these SWPS series allow you to do. And you know the remarkable thing about these SWPS series, the way they're laid out? Besides engaging with yourself, you got a much more personal engagement going on with the author. Maybe some of his family and editors help write it, so maybe that too, but predominantly the author's experiential intelligence and values, beliefs, and convictions, their deeper feelings, that's what this gets down to, really deeper feelings that you can't record until we came up with this formula. It's not a face print, it's not voice recognition, it's not a fingerprint. No, it's all that and much more. It's who you are, the essence of who you are. And that's what your experiential intelligence and your values, beliefs, and convictions bring out. And if one was to capture something that was truly you, that would be what you should get in archive. Because as AI goes more and more and they start creating an artificial intelligence WM or whatever, and they start parroting the same information that you're saying out there, how do you tell who is really you, who was really you, and what will really be you versus the mutant? And maybe you don't care, but I think you should. I think you should, because that's what you really can give to the next generations. That can't be spent like money or a car getting old or all the other assets that we try to get. This is something way beyond that. You hear about people wanting to freeze their body or their brain because they think in 500 years they'll be able to bring them back. Other than Star Trek and other science fiction stuff, it isn't going to happen. But if you've got the patterns of your EI and your VBCs, acronyms, you know what they mean, and all the statements taken from best-selling book authors' EI and VBCs that are captured in the hotspots in these archives, and you've got a nice binder of those to look at every day and use in your own life. You've got a binder to use maybe with a group chat or something, people that are also into this. But what you've also got this binder for is a granddaughter or a grandson when you're 50 years old, or your grandson, they can have a copy of this. And they can look at these books and go, hey, Dad, Grandpa, that book's 50 years old. I don't even know if I could find it anymore in paper. Fine, but that isn't what they need. You've got the best spots, the heart of what was in that book author's beliefs. And those beliefs don't change. They up and, they go out of favor and in favor, but they're always going to be there. They're the truths that go on endlessly. And that's a legacy you can leave. There's nothing like it. So it wasn't too bad other than hooking up the microphone, and hopefully it's working. So it's pretty exciting. My perfection, or at least critical skills, get in the way. But hey, 80-20, 20-80. Be well, be healthy, hang in there. It's an interesting time, like it always is, but it's the one we live in right now. And this is the one where we can interact at a deeper level by completing response reports on SWPS series and figuring out a way to share them personally, and why that time doing that is so invigorating versus just getting slam-bammed, thank you, whatever, with what's the huge internet, artificial AGI, Sam Altman, Musk, X, all this stuff. Wow. Who knows where it's all going to end up. Take care.